Welcome to the Relevance Report, where we explore the relevant stories that are shaping our world today. I'm Hayden Latimer, your host this week. On today's show, we will explore how an Alberta-based nonprofit is doing its best to provide education to women who deserve it. Next, we'll check out the Silver Skate Festival, where winter fun meets arts and culture. After that, local musicians are taking advantage of performing at local festivals to increase engagement with the community. Starting off in the classroom, or lack thereof. Since Afghanistan fell to the Taliban in mid-2021, there have been stories of university dorms being evacuated and women with degrees hiding their diplomas. The Taliban rule has made it increasingly difficult for women to get the education they deserve. One Canadian-based organization is taking it upon themselves to help get women some of the education they're missing out on. Here's my report. Here in Canada, education is a right for all. No matter your age, race, or gender, you're entitled to learn in a classroom. However, that is not the case for some of the world. In Afghanistan, 80% of school-aged girls have been deprived of education, and almost a third have never even stepped foot into a school. Classrooms Without Walls is an Alberta-based organization that aims to provide education to those who have been deprived of it. Classrooms Without Walls developed the Teachers for Afghanistan program, where Afghans are taught a wide range of subjects, from GED and ESL to high school and university level classes. Due to the Taliban's ban on women's education, women's journeys towards learning are far from easy. Teachers for Afghanistan has safeguards in place to protect students' identities and keep them safe. I sat down with Carolyn McDonald, a student at the University of Alberta and a volunteer at Classrooms Without Walls, to learn more about the program.
I led a 10-week course, and this course specifically was for advanced ESL, English as a Second Language students, in Afghanistan.
What inspired you to get involved with Classrooms Without Walls?
One of the biggest things that attracted me to them was their mission and their mission statement and the outreach in countries that they work with, war-torn countries. I think it's an interesting concept, especially from a Canadian organization. And one of the biggest things that drew me to them is the fact that they chose specifically to work with those countries, even though it's going to be more difficult to do that. And sort of show these students that they care and that there are other people in the world who are, willing to engage with them.
And what challenges does the organization face in providing education remotely?
Some of the biggest challenges are the inability to reach those outside of the main cities. Wi-Fi shortages and outages are pretty common. Another one is just active warfare in Afghanistan. This one class that I was leading, one of the students had to miss a class because their brother got their arm blown off. And it was hard to hear in such a casual email. They deal with those situations all the time. Additionally, time zones, it's another barrier as well, because I think they're 14 hours ahead of us. And so the times are really difficult to match up, especially because the organization primarily works in Canada. It's sort of lacking due to the demand for teachers. It's so many students that want to sign up and participate and so few teachers to facilitate those classes, especially because it's volunteer work and it's unpaid.
Did you learn anything from working with these students that had such extreme barriers to their education?
The reality of their situation. It's really heartbreaking to see that these young students are forced with such barriers. The students weren't allowed to have their cameras on because most of them were women. They weren't allowed to show their faces at all on the cameras because if they did, someone could hack into their computer from the government and something bad could happen. The fact that those are precautions that they need to take really puts in perspective the elevated level of society that we are in and that we take for granted every single day.
Audrey Azoulay, Director General of the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, says today Afghanistan is the only country in the world to prohibit access to education for girls and women. This situation must concern us all. The right to education cannot be negotiated or compromised. In just 4 years of Taliban rule, they have managed to wipe out 20 years of progress in education, and now an entire generation is at risk. Organizations like Classrooms Without Walls and UNESCO try their best to provide children with the education they deserve, but nothing replaces learning face-to-face in a classroom. Silver Skate Festival celebrated its 35th year this past February. The 10-day event took place at Sir Wilfrid Laurier Park in Edmonton's River Valley and integrated a variety of outdoor activities with performances, folktales, sculpture, and Indigenous heritage. Joanna Clark talks with the artists, volunteers, and visitors who made the festival happen.
In the midst of a deep freeze, Edmontonians made the most of winter with this year's Silver Skate Festival. The annual event is a celebration of winter, culture, and outdoor activity in Edmonton's beautiful river valley. Visitors come to skate, see the stunning snow sculptures, and immerse themselves in the festival's unique blend of art, folklore, and fun. For the festival visitors who braved the cold this year, it's clear that embracing winter is all about the right mindset and the right gear. Zoe Ho, bundled up to her eyeballs in winter gear, brought her kids to visit the festival for the first time.
I could like to bring my kids right here and enjoy the festival right here because it looks lovely. And the surrounding, it seems like so fun. So yeah, that is our first time be here. We've just been ice skating and then we just ride on the bicycle and that's pretty fun.
From first-time visitors to seasoned attendees, the Silver Skate Festival offers something for everyone. Lila Williams and Robin Sheeler have made it a tradition to come back year after year.
We're kind of taking a walk right now, just seeing all the beautiful lights.
We're walking along the folk trail and reading all the stories. We're enjoying being outside in the winter and enjoying our beautiful city of Edmonton and the River Valley. Winter can be pretty long in Edmonton if you don't embrace it and get outside and really just enjoy Edmonton and the winter because it definitely has a lot to offer, I think.
But you have to make sure you're dressed appropriately.
Yes, that is, yeah, you can enjoy it if you're warm.
The festival's visitors can head home when they get cold, but the dedicated volunteers have to stick it out. Volunteers are a huge part of what makes the festival possible. Tents with generators give them places to warm up, while bonfires dotted around the park add to the community atmosphere that makes Silver Skate so special.
We're volunteers for a church, and so any place that we can help out, any place that we can kind of support, uplift the community, we're there. We want to help.
That's Zoe Hall, a volunteer who moved to Edmonton just 1 week before signing up. She heard about the opportunity from her friend Camila de los Santos. For Zoe and Camila, one of the biggest surprises has been seeing how resilient Edmontonians are in the cold.
I think the biggest highlight is seeing how many people come out in the cold weather. You know, people want to spend time together.
I just love that. Yeah, the weather is like not an obstacle for people. They still want to hang out with their families and do fun stuff. So I just love like how brave they are to come out. It's pretty fun.
Well, we're both new to Canada. I'm from Texas and she's from Mexico. So this winter is very different from us. But I think we get through it by relying on each other, you know, finding joy in the small things.
Beyond the active winter fun, the festival also showcased art and storytelling. A trail winding beneath the bare tree branches led to sparkling snow sculptures and stories that had debuted in previous years and were brought back as part of the 35-year celebration of the festival. On weekend nights, wooden sculptures crafted throughout the day by local artists were burned in a bonfire to crown the festivities in a celebration of community. One of the festival's most unique elements is the Heritage Village, which offers an opportunity to learn about Indigenous culture, crafts, and traditions. On the last day of the festival, I spoke with Darcy Darren Schmidtick, who shared her experience as both a craft person and an educator as we warmed ourselves by the fire.
I'm part of the Heritage Pavilion, where we have a bunch of Indigenous and historical Canadian cultures come together, where we're teaching and talking, and I'm a small business partner, and me and my mom make a lot of Indigenous crafts, and we're selling and teaching about our cool little projects we make. We have some fairly cool stuff, some more contemporary things. We have beadwork and dream catchers, and we're also currently working on bringing back fish leather tanning, and I've had a chance to talk to lots of people who don't even know that fish leather exists.
Darcy reflected on how winter was traditionally a time for learning and storytelling in Indigenous cultures.
For us, wintertime was a time for teaching and learning as opposed to going outside and being active. So it does kind of have the intersection of when you're done your sports, you have to go somewhere to warm up in the winter, and you can learn and you can be taught and you can teach yourself, making those interconnections through the community because we're together.
While the cold weather did cause some event cancellations this year, the spirit of the festival remains strong. Whether you're skating, exploring the folk trail, or just soaking in the atmosphere, the Silver Skate Festival is a reminder to embrace winter and make the most of the season. For the Relevance Report in Edmonton, I'm Joanna Clark.
Next, we'll sit down with local musical artist Mike Wilson from the band Limited Hangout to talk about the anniversary of their song Death of a Star and their most recent performance at Winterruption.
Can't fade if you turn it all off. No fluff, just stop. No trepidation. You play, tip your hand, just lost all.
This song is titled Death of a Star, a track Wilson describes as one of their more hard-hitting pieces featured on their album. In this segment, Lucy Gordon explores the process behind songwriting and the highs and lows of making a name for themselves in Edmonton's competitive music scene.
In an interview with Mike Wilson, we chat more about what it is like to not only play in Winterruption, but the dedication it takes to write and produce music.
I got into music in high school. I was about 15. I started my first band with my friends when I was 17, and I've been playing in bands ever since.
What was one of the highlights from the show that you played at Winterruption?
The shows are all great. People really come out no matter what's playing. You know, they'll buy a ticket to see what we have, regardless of if they've heard of the band or anything. They just want to see it. You know, it's a cultural tastemaker of the scene. So you get a really enthusiastic crowd, a one that's really, you know, embracing what you're bringing to the table. We opened up for Big Sis, who are a really fun band, great people, but they also have really enthusiastic fans who are really kind to us, really, really fun to play for. So it was a great experience. We sold out the show. We kind of oversold out the show. So everyone there was great. Everything went well. I had a great time.
What is the importance of also featuring local music?
Not only does it make up, you know, more than half of the bands, but, you know, a lot of the audience, people who come out to events like that are going to be really enthusiastic music fans, and enthusiastic music fans, you know, for the most part, tend to be musicians themselves at whatever level. Like we talked earlier, you know, you don't have to be in a band that's trying to quote unquote make it. You can just be someone who enjoys playing guitar or piano at home and really digging into records and finding out, you know, why you like them and what they're made out of. And that can be anyone. So I think really embracing that local stuff, not only does it bring those people, you know, into your community by having them play, and, you know, maybe the bands who played last year and not playing this year are going to come see it, but you do get people who maybe don't go to local shows, seeing a lot of really great local bands that they wouldn't see otherwise. It kind of brings them a new audience as well, which is really exciting, you know, as a musician and as part of the festival.
Who or what bands have influenced the songs you've played or written?
A lot of the stuff that I'm writing for Limited Hangout it's a lot of synth pop songs. My favorite band that really inspired me is Churches. They're another synth pop band inspired by a lot of 80s bands like Depeche Mode. So that kind of filters through into a lot more punk stuff. I was in punk bands for 10 years. So I love heavy guitars. I love a big deep riff. So that all kind of comes together when I'm writing.
Last month, you celebrated your 1-year release of Death of a Star. What was the inspiration behind writing that song?
That was the first song that was kind of ever written for this band. It was written over the COVID lockdowns, and I had nothing to do, so I downloaded Ableton, and that was kind of the first song that came out, and there was a lot of different riffs, but I really, really liked how that went. Wrote it on an emulator for the Juno, which is a type of synthesizer called the Tal Uno, so it's a bit of a knockoff. Took that to our producer, Dan Uthet, and he beefed it up in every way. So proud of that song. It's one of my favorites I've ever written. And, you know, one of my favorite things about the bands, it's not just playing the shows. I mean, playing shows is, I think, the most fun thing you can do in the world. But it's really fulfilling being able to take an idea and grow it past what I ever thought it could be.
And now, it's time for our question of the week. We asked, what song inspires you and why?
Right now, probably Waiting for Life from Once on This Island, because it's just so hopeful and fun.
I've been listening to a lot of Pink Panthers lately. It works really well with me personally because it's very light, uplifting music.
I listen to songs, gospel songs that inspire my spirit.
Saint Chroma by Tyler, the Creator. It's just a really a hype song, and I like any song that gets, you know, my energy up, gets you hyped.
Burning for You by Blue Oyster Cult, because the guitar riffs are so slick and heavy and sweet and groovy.
There's a song by Mac DeMarco called For the First Time, and it's beautiful. It's about a guy seeing his love for the first time, and it just is romantic, and it inspires me to be romantic to my girlfriend.
Thanks for joining us for the Relevance Report. This week's episode was produced by Hayden Latimer, Joanna Clark, and Lucy Gordon. The show was edited by Joanna Clark. The show's supervising producer is Sheena Rossiter, additional supervision by Sasha Stanovich. This episode was produced as part of the BCSC 325 Radio News and Documentaries course in the winter 2025 semester. The course is part of the Bachelor of Communication Studies program in the Department of Communication at MacEwan University. The show was edited and produced out of the MacEwan Media Production Studio. Our theme music is called Buzzing by Kaylee Lambert. Additional music includes Death of a Star by Limited Hangout, Guitar Riff by Corbin Bakoriki, The Beat of Nature by Folk Acoustic, and Unlock Me by Praz Kanal on Pixabay. Logo design for this podcast is by Sasha Stanovich, and I'm Hayden Latimer, your host for this week's episode. This podcast was recorded on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional and ancestral territory of the Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, and Nakota Sioux. We acknowledge that this territory is home to the Métis settlements in the Métis Nation of Alberta, Districts 9, 10, and 11, within the historical North Saskatchewan River Territory. Don't forget to subscribe to the Relevance Report on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you like what you heard, please leave us a review and rating. It really helps people find the show. Please join us again next week when we report the relevant stories that are shaping our world.